And even ADD and ADHD, I was called hyperkinetic. They just said, she's hyperkinetic. Yeah. Don't feed her any white foods. Make sure she gets plenty of exercise. Make sure she has a pet, like something to take care of, whether it be a stuffed animal or a pet. I had a pet rat. I had dogs, something to take care of, and make sure she gets plenty of outside time.
Yeah.
That, and she goes to bed on time. Like that was the treatment.
Right.
And I know I wish it were that simple now, but I just posted a reel yesterday talking about kids that get into trouble, like really kids that get into a lot of trouble. And I knew those kids. I was always friends with those kids. Like I was always friends with the kids who were getting in trouble. I was always the AP, like superstar student, super high, top of class. And I always followed the rules because I just knew how to work the rules, if you will. I don't like following rules, but like I moved a lot. So I had to learn quickly and I learned how to work the system. But I was always friends with the troublesome kids and they were always brilliant. They were brilliant kids. They are creative.
Yes.
Really interesting kids. They just hated sitting still and sitting under all those horrific fluorescent lights. And they did terrible when you fed them food dyes and you fed them junk food. And they did terrible when they didn't get enough activity and movement. And I kid you not, like I am married to that kid now. I am married to the most brilliant, wonderful man who is so intelligent. And he was told repeatedly that he was not smart when he was in school. And he was convinced when I met him that he was not good at school. And just recently, I signed him up for a health coaching program, actually. Mm-hmm. And he's able to play the video at like 2 times speed. And he walks around the house and he cleans and he works on his tractor and he puts on his headphones and he's like doing something or he's playing pool. And he looked at me the other day and he said, if I could have just turned my teachers up to 2 times speed and done something physical while I was hearing it, school would have been an entirely different experience. And I'm like, I told you you were brilliant. It's the system, like the sit still under the fluorescent lights and eat our garbage food. But I think my rant is because this applies to human adults, human children, same. Like human adults are sitting under fluorescent lights in cubicles and wondering why shit's going sideways in their health. And I'm like, it's the same rules.
That is so true. And I had many traits of ADD. And when I started to study ADD and had a clinic, and I was diagnosed, I probably diagnosed thousands of kids. And we like long batteries of tests, which I look back and think, oh, that must have been brutal to put these kids through that. But then when positive psychology came into being, which is around the mid-90s, it was really focusing on strengths. And so everything that you can say is a deficit, like specifically with ADD, impulsive, hyperactive, you can turn that around and say, how is that going to benefit you? So impulsivity, well, you're a quick start. And
yes.
Entrepreneurs, I'm in a group with entrepreneurs, and how many of you had ADD or thinking, everybody, it's 100% who are raising their hand. And I was just at an event at a conference and I was thinking, I've always been like this. I have to have an aisle seat. I can't, if I have an assigned seat that is stuck in the middle, it's like, I'm like, how am I going to get out of this?
It's like hell.
I must get up and down 20 times. And I like to stand now. I'm standing as we're doing this podcast. I feel good standing and it's excruciating to sit. And I listen to books like on Audible. And yeah, I'm always listening at twice the speed and getting through it and doing something else at the same time. And yeah, so...
It's a thing. I think if more adults would honor that as well. It's funny. Adults think they get out of childhood and the rules are suddenly different. And I'm like, no, you still need to go outside and wear yourself out every day.
Yeah.
I still send my husband out on the farm. If he's getting ornery, I'm like, you need to go outside and tinker with something. Yeah. So he'll go like rebuild an engine or he has to come home dirty and worn out. And then he's super calm and happy. I feed him or he feeds, we refeed him and then he takes a shower and he sleeps hard. He sleeps like a champ. And I'm like, living out on the farm, I've realized, it's the modern city system. It's this urban climate that we're all in that is really, I think, just scrambling our brains and that downstream impact on our overall well-being is just so devastating. So anyway, that's my side rant, but let's talk about you. So you are an adamant devotee to strength training. Talk about that. How did you get into that? And what's that journey been like for you?
Well, if you saw a picture of me in my 20s, you would say, this is a fat slob. It was literally,
really?
I was not obese, but I was so out of shape. And at the time, I had a major addiction to sugar. Started in college, started eating, desserts, like, oh, you can keep going back to the cafeteria and get more and more. Oh, I think I'll have another serving of ice cream. And then I was always a good writer, and I was like straight A student, but writing papers, I would deliberate, and it had to be perfect. And so I remember sitting like in a dorm, and my comfort became snacking. So they had vending machines, which I never saw. Okay, I can go to the vending machine and get a bag of M&Ms. Oh, I just finished that. I'll go get a Mars bar or something. And pretty soon, this was a major addiction. And it was binge eating, which I didn't know at the time because we didn't have labels for that. But I would be able to eat bags of cookies and ice cream. And I never purged, but I was always like, oh, I'm, disgusted with how much I ate today. So I'll just eat a bag of carrots tomorrow. And it was, there was a diet at the time that was like, I knew I could lose 5 pounds in a week and fit into the dress for the, fraternity, for the party over the weekend or whatever it was. So it was totally focused on appearance, had no concept whatever of health. And I don't know why I didn't, because I was always interested in nutrition. I went to school in Evanston, Illinois at Northwestern, and they had a little mom and pop health food store. And I would go there and I would get these cookies and, but that was all junky, health food stuff. But I actually took home ec, and back in the day, they actually had a home ec department. They closed it soon afterwards. So I was studying nutrition and I was interested, but not applying to myself.